Our next speaker is Reverend Ellen Grace O'Brien, the Spiritual Director Center for the Spiritual Enlightenment in San Jose, who will be speaking on how to have more energy. Reverend O'Brien will present the ways of increasing vitality and living in harmony with what is most meaningful to us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste. You can hear me all right? Yes? So, if you have been here for the full session, we have had a wealth of information shared by my distinguished colleagues and fellow speakers this morning. Thank you. So, since I'm going to talk about having more energy, let's begin with raising up our energy a little bit. Would you like to just stand for a moment to see how that works? And when we stand, let's just stand and put our arms out, gently palms up, and let us chant Om. Just gently, 3 times. Question for us: what does abundant energy look like? You know, we have testimonies and examples in the lives of the saints and sages. At this conference, we're celebrating the life of Vivekananda, and certainly we look at his life and we see abundant energy. Gandhiji, Mother Teresa in modern times, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. What do we see when we look at these people who exemplify abundant energy? Enthusiasm for life, certainly. A tirelessness. Also, joy. I've been talking about the koshas today, and the Anandamaya kosha seems to be shining right through in those who have this energy, enthusiasm, and clear focus for their lives. So what is their secret? I had an experience a few years ago that just brought this to the forefront of my mind. Our center has a conference that we offer called Carry the Vision, and it is about ahimsa. It is about nonviolence in our community and in our world, and we're about to offer that in about 3 weeks at the University of Santa Clara. And the vision being carried, of course, is the legacies of Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Cesar Chavez, who is an important leader in California especially. And Dolores Huerta is a woman who worked side by side with Cesar Chavez, taking the teachings they had learned from Gandhiji and putting them into practice to bring justice for the farm workers in California. So I had an opportunity to ride a train, take a train ride with Dolores Huerta from Los Angeles to San Jose. We were coming to the conference a few years ago. And I was watching her from a distance with another person, and she was speaking to young people about this practice of nonviolence, which has been her life and her passion. And she's now in her 80s, and so at that time she was close to that age. And while many of us had been on the train for some time, it had been making several stops, we were kind of feeling fatigued. She was going strong. She could have pulled the train herself with her energy. And we were just commenting on this energy that she was exuding. And my friend said, the secret is that there is no conflict in her. There is no conflict in her, in who she is, what she says, what she does. This is yoga, is it not? She would not formally call herself a yogi or a yogini, but certainly her life was exemplifying yoga. So this unity, oneness, being restored to our original wholeness, this harmony of body, mind, and spirit. This is the most efficient energy state available and possible for us. Whether we're sitting in meditation or we're engaged in action in the world, the state of no conflict, no interference between body, mind, spirit. When we are at odds with ourselves, when there's a split between our hearts and our minds, between our soul and our bodies, we are not energy efficient, and that becomes a drain on our system. So today I just want to pose the question about our own experience of energy in our lives. And we understand as practitioners of yoga that we are our best scientists to look at our own life and see what our energy levels are and what they are related to in terms of our own ability to be living conflict-free, body, mind, and spirit. And also I think it's interesting for us to look at and to ask how energy is viewed in the culture that we live in. How is it viewed here in the West? For as long as I can remember in this culture, certainly if you watch television, which is a mass producer of our culture, there's always something you can take to get more energy, right? There's something you can take in. When I was growing up, I'll age myself here, the product was Geritol, for my parents. If you have tired blood, you can take Geritol. And, now we have, of course, other things that people are recommended to take in. And I understand that the energy drink for young people in the technology industry to keep going is called Red Bull. That this is what you take. Now, yoga, of course, offers many remedies for low energy. The asanas of Hatha Yoga can bring us into energetic balance. Pranayama can purify the subtle channels and enhance the flow of prana, our vital force that contributes to our experience of energy and vitality. We can learn about the gunas and how these elements affect everything. Our thoughts, our bodies, of course, our energy. So we can learn to adjust, make adjustments in our environments, in our diets, in accordance of our understanding of the gunas and how they affect our well-being. The use of mantra, of course, can lift us up, and meditation, prayer, and sacred ritual. I practice it all, and I recommend it all. Natural ways to cultivate energy. However, what I want to say today is really, I am sure, simply a reminder to this group, and that is that the most important remedy that yoga has to offer us and our world today is self-realization. That is the most important remedy. So the first and most essential key of having more energy is self-knowledge, is realizing our true nature. From the vantage point of knowing who we are, then we can choose various practices or interventions to enhance energy and well-being. And we will do so then in the right way and for the right reason. But without self-realization, without self-knowledge, and of course I'm talking about the capital S self, which I am assuming you know and understand. So without that, the valuable interventions that yoga offers us can be useful, but may be approached for the wrong reason and in the wrong way. So that is why we see so much in the West today the valuable interventions of yoga being offered for quote-unquote self-improvement. And here I mean small self. And so without the heart of yoga, without the soul of yoga, we run the risk of the interventions not being as powerful as they certainly can be. And with self-knowledge, one understands the true purpose of yoga practices, that they are to remove anything that obstructs the perception or expression of the divine self. These practices are not to create a spiritual condition, not to give us energy from the outside, but to reveal what is already true about us, to help us access the energy, the infinite energy that is within us. So this is the basic teaching of Kriya Yoga that we find in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, where it is defined, and it is said in the second sutra, second chapter, second pada, that this practice of Kriya Yoga is to cultivate samadhi and to reduce afflictions or obstacles. In other words, to remove whatever obstructs or interferes with our clear perceptions and direct experience of the self. So the practice for cultivating this self-knowledge is swadhyaya. So this self-study of the nature of consciousness, we heard a lot about it today in terms of understanding the koshas, understanding where interference shows up, study of one's self through discernment and inquiry, and the practice of samadhi or superconscious meditation. So it is the steady, repeated practice of superconscious meditation or samadhi that purifies the mental field, removes stress from the body, enhances our ability to concentrate, awakens our intuition, strengthens our immune system, literally enhances and increases our energy. So first, I point to the heart and soul of yoga. If we want to increase energy, first seek self-realization. The knowledge and direct experience of our essential nature. And we do this through inquiry, through study, practice with our guru, through meditation. And the second key that yoga offers us is to live a disciplined life. To live a disciplined life, not to waste or dissipate our life force or our energy, our time, our resources. You know, it's the full spectrum. We want to have abundant energy. We have to pay attention to energy in all of its forms, which includes time, which includes money, which includes our speech, which includes our activity, all of it. Look at it holistically and use self-discipline to not waste energy, but instead learn how to conserve and actually increase and enhance our energy. So how do we do that? The yoga teachings tell us that living a disciplined life is dharmic living. In other words, living in harmony with the truth of our being and living in harmony with the truth about life. Dharma we recognize as the way of righteousness, the way of truth, the support, the universal order of things. So the self-discipline is learning to live in harmony with the highest order, learning to live in harmony with our own soul, with our own essence. This is the key to having abundant energy. And in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, we find, of course, the yamas and the niyamas, the restraints and the observances. Focus on life in the world, the restraints, the development of the inner life, the observances. And I know that the sessions have gone long, so I'm going to just hopefully assume everyone listening is familiar with, of course, the yamas and niyamas. And if not, I do have a book out there, which I will be sharing with you afterwards. But I won't go into those now, just to say that each of the yamas and niyamas provide us with a spiritual principle that has to do with that component of spiritual law. So each yama, each niyama focuses on spiritual law, how the universe works. Then each one has several practices that shows us how to live dharmically, how to demonstrate this spiritual law. So there is a spiritual principle, there are practices, and the third thing is that each yama and niyama, each of these spiritual principles comes with a promise that tells us when we are established in that truth principle, this will manifest for us. So in other words, when we look at ahimsa, for example, the first of the yamas, non-violence, the spiritual law, the spiritual principle that ahimsa rests on is that there is only one life. There's only one reality. We share that. What we do to another comes back to us, right? So this is the spiritual principle of ahimsa that it rests on. And then we have the practices, which are do not harm yourself, another, the environment. And then, of course, there are many particular ways that we have the practices of ahimsa. Through thought, word, deed. Many, many practices. And then the promise of ahimsa is that one who is established in ahimsa is free from enmity. I like to say that to put the promise in this way, that one who is established in ahimsa has the whole world as his or her friend. And so when you look at the yamas and niyamas, you will see that they are also, every one of them, a key to abundant energy in our life. Because they are a guidebook for how to live dharmically, how to live in harmony with the universal energy, how to live in harmony with the source of our being. And that is where our energy comes from, not from outside of us, but from within. So you will find that to be the most important 10 steps that you can take towards having abundant energy in life. Because anytime we are not following the restraints and observances, anytime that we are not living dharmically, we are going to be at odds with our own higher self, right? And whenever that is the case, there's a block in energy flowing through us. There's an energetic block. If we lie, if we steal, if we're selfish or so forth, our conscience the voice of our inner self will be raised in protest. And if we don't want to change our behavior, then we have to spend our energy trying to stifle the conscience, trying to avoid hearing our own inner guidance. We have to find some way to drown it out, and that depletes our energy. But ultimately, when we do that, when we are living at odds with ourselves and we are looking for ways to drown out the voice that is telling us to do what we know we should do. That is my Guru's definition of Dharma. Do what you know you should do. And when we are trying to drown that out, ultimately, what we are drowning out is the fire of our own lives. So this is the second key to having more energy, is to live a dharmic life. And the third key that we find in the teachings of Kriya Yoga, as they are listed in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, is Ishvara Pranidhana, to surrender to God, or put it another way, to let go of the illusion that we are separate from the source, that somehow we are out here on our own, having to find energy, having to create on our own. You know, just imagine how much energy it takes to keep up that lie. It's a drain. So how do we surrender? I like to say a good, easy way is to just pay attention to the ways that we insist that we're on our own. And then we can stop doing that. Stop insisting that somehow we're a separate little skin-encapsulated ego, not connected to others and not connected to the source of all life. We can open our minds to infinite good, practice meditation, pray our way through to the experience of oneness. And last but not least, I must say, love. Love is the key to the greatest energy that we can bring forth. Do I have time to finish with the reading? How are we doing here? Okay. I want to share with you some words from Paramahansa Yogananda on love. There's a feeling of cultivating energy here. This poem is called Breathe in Me. Breathe in me the way to love you, that I may learn to faultlessly love you. Pour me the wisdom wine by which I become intoxicated with you. Whisper in my ears of silence the way to be with you always. Speak to my wandering senses and lead them back to your sanctuary within. Call the marauding mind and counsel it how to retrace its steps to your home. With your silent eyes, just look at me, and I will know where to find you. You may hide beneath the ocean. You may hide behind delusion. You may hide behind life. You may hide behind dualities. You may hide behind theological conundrums. You may hide behind unanswered prayers. But you cannot hide behind my love. For in mirroring the light of my love, you are revealed. Words of Paramahansa Yogananda. I have been given one question. Please comment on how to deal with cognitive dissonance produced by the corporate environment that we cannot control but must deal with. I think that in my personal experience, this comes down to living a life, I will call it faith. It is this third point that I made of surrender, which is living our lives in truth and holding to truth and coming to trust that. I think it is true that we have so many struggles in the culture that we live in. I have people tell me all the time, how can you teach satya? How can you teach? One man said, I'm a lawyer, I can't practice that. And he wasn't kidding. But how do we live? How do we live if we do not trust truth? And I mean truth with a capital T. And so I think we have to go deep into our practice and come to rely on the truth and understand and know and find through our experience that we are guided then. We are guided to the right place, to the right connections, and so forth. I do not think it is necessary for us. In fact, I think it is counterproductive to our health to continually assault ourselves with dissonance. First, get clear within ourselves and let ourselves be guided in the right way. That is the best that I know. Thank you so much for your question. Thank you much for your attention, and right before lunch, I bow to you. Namaste.